I'm at a point now where I don't get into a deal unless I already know who I can work with in it. Because if I don't have the right people, then these things are not going to succeed. I think that it's a really important practice is when you think you want to do something, go find the people who are actually doing it and then see what their lives look like. Are they living the lifestyle that I would want to live? Are they living to work or working to live? And really start to see kind of where their values are. Brand is very valuable. The power of a brand is that you're able to get the ideas that you're espousing to way more people than I would in any other circumstance. What we do is very hard. Even with all the tools and strategy, coaching, it's still extremely hard to do. Anything that's hard is going to then have an outsized reward, and that's what we're going for.
Welcome to another episode of the Deal Flow Show podcast. Today, we've got a very exciting one, a little different, probably the most present on social that we've had so far. Mr. Ben Kelly, founder of Acquisition Ace. If you could please give us a quick 2 minutes of who it is that you are, what it is that you do, and who it is that you help.
Oh, awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Ivan, and DJ for having me on. So what do I do? So I buy small businesses. And over the last couple of years, I decided that I was going to start talking about it on social media, and people started to get value in that. And I then opened up a community called Acquisition Ace, and people join, and we teach them how to go from absolutely no understanding of what a business acquisition looks like or how to do it, and we go through the entire process to where within 6 months they can acquire a cash flowing business that typically is paying out at least $150,000 a year in cash flow to that person. So that is kind of the strategy and kind of the focus that I've had the last couple of years, and it's been a blessing that it's continued to grow. So been having a lot of fun.
Sick. I was watching some of your YouTube content, and I could easily see how maybe some of the more as institutional business buyers, do you get any pushback there from, I guess, larger private equity firms or guys in the finance space that you may have known so far? Do you get any pushback at all from, I guess, spilling a lot of the secrets that they worked oh so hard for?
No, I definitely get pushback, but the pushback is typically around people who just are completely ignorant about the strategy and the process that we're doing. A lot of people think that I'm peddling some type of get rich quick scheme where any average person can just go buy a business in 30 days, be a millionaire, which is obviously not the case. What we do is very hard in business acquisition, even with all the tools and strategy, step-by-step instruction, coaching, it's still extremely hard to do. Like there's no way around it. You're talking about talking to someone who is selling a usually multi-million-dollar business that they spent 20 plus years to create and run. They see it as kind of it's their nest egg, it's their family. And then you're coming out of here with, maybe not even any experience in that industry. And you now need to be able to connect with that person and gain their trust, connect with a lender, gain their trust, connect with an investor, gain their trust, and put it all together to happen in the span of 60 to 90 days. And so it's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of times, even myself, I'm not successful every time I try to do it. There's plenty of deals that fall apart. And so the pushback I typically get is people thinking that I'm trivializing it or saying it's easier than it actually is. And I've never said it's easy. It's hard, but it doesn't also help to have an attitude of, oh, since it's hard, no one can do it, right? It's like, obviously, if it's hard, that means that if you work really hard, you're going to outdo about 99% of people who will give up because it's too hard. And then you're going to get the value in that. Anything that's hard is going to then have an outsized reward. And that's what we're going for.
For sure. With the businesses that you're buying and everything that you're doing, I saw that you were in the military as an intelligence officer, then went to JP Morgan, and then decided to start going into business for yourself. I know the decision was based around time and wanting life freedom. Can you kind of break that down a bit more for me?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, when I got out of college, I commissioned as an Army officer, and I was in the intelligence arena, and I had a lot of fun. It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But my wife and I at the time wanted to start having kids, and I saw a lot of my colleagues who were, either a couple years ahead of me or even, the field grade officers that were 10 years plus ahead of me. And I saw that, what their lives look like. And I think that it's a really, really important practice is when you think you want to do something, right? Go find the people who are actually doing it and then see what their lives look like, right? Just see what the proof is in the pudding, right? So go out there and see, are they living the lifestyle that I would want to live? Are they living to work or working to live? And really start to see kind of where their values are. And so I saw that, hey, it was a hard life. The army is not a life you get into be an easy life. But I saw that, a lot of these guys were deployed multiple times, couldn't see their families, missed a huge chunk of their child's lives. And I was like, you know what? If I don't have to do it, then I don't think that I'm going to. And there was other things I was interested in as well. I was always interested in becoming an entrepreneur. My father did, and I saw our family's life change when he did that. And so it was a good time for me to kind of springboard from there, got my MBA, went to go work for JP Morgan, and that kind of really exposed me as being in the private bank. All of our clients were $10 million or more in liquid net worth. So I was seeing the most successful of the successful and what they were doing. And so it was a really good way for me to kind of look behind the curtain and see, are these guys getting rich because of stocks or what? And find out that it's or what. I mean, a lot of these guys were making their millions through business acquisition. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, this is something I need to dip my toe into.
Yeah. With you talk about the time freedom. It's with we talked yesterday to a guy named Kevin, and he's a managing partner at a firm, and he was talking about a lot of the sacrifices he's had to make in order to build his firm. So it's not like you're going into a less time intensive business, if you will. I mean, you're still working. I'm sure there's the long days and the long nights and all that kind of stuff. How are you um, able to juggle so much? Because not only are you buying the businesses, you're also teaching others how to buy the businesses. So you're running multiple businesses all at the same time while still prioritizing the main value that led you to leave corporate.
Yeah. Yeah, good
So
question. Um, the the difference is, and I don't know, when you talk to Kevin, it would be interesting. Obviously, his model is probably dealing with larger companies than what I'm dealing with. I'm usually dealing with companies that are sub 5 million. For the most part, we do have companies that are a little bit larger than that, but typically we're focusing on a very small niche of businesses that have management in place, right? So when you look at 100 businesses, we're only probably 3 or 4 are going to qualify for what we're looking at. And so these are smaller businesses, but they have enough cash flow to where they have a full-time general manager, or the seller's interested in staying on as the general manager. And so you're day one after closing, you're not running the business, right? The business is running without you. Now you're focusing on a lot of what owners do. So obviously payroll, marketing strategies, things that you're going to try to do to make the business better. And so the businesses that I started out, I was very involved in the first one, which was a SaaS company. I put $5,000 in. I got a minority equity stake in it, and I worked part time in growing it. And we grew it from 10K in MRR to well over 100K in MRR. And I went from investing 5K to making over 180K a year in it. And so it was a win, but I had to definitely put the sweat equity into it. Now, the deals that I'm doing now, because I've got to the point of doing, multiple of deals like that. Now I only do deals if I know that the day after closing, I have a minimal role in. And so I am starting with the end in mind. If the most important thing in my life is time to spend with my family and my kids, I got 4 that are all under 5 years old. So it's like home is chaotic and it's awesome and it's fun. But that's not going to be like that forever. They're not going to be 5, 4, 2, and 2 months old forever. They're going to be 18 before I know it. And so for me, it's like, okay, how do I maximize the next decade and a half as that's happening? And I mean, if I was going just for pure money to make money, yeah, I'd be working 100-hour weeks for sure. And I would be probably 4 or 5 what I'm doing. But that's again not the priority. That's not the most important thing. Time is. So how do I do the same strategy but tweak it so that I'm only spending post acquisition for a lot of these deals, some of them 0 hours, some of them 30 minutes a week, some of them an hour a week, because that's something I can scale. And so it's all about focusing on the right strategy for you and what you want to get out of it.
Ben, I'd love to hear from you. Having worked with you on a couple different projects, I've seen your ability to just delegate, work with other people, have teams involved in what you're doing in different businesses. And obviously, you have general managers and marketing agencies you're working with and just different, pieces to the puzzle. And I've seen you just kind of be a master of being able to prioritize and work with those teams. I would just love your thoughts on, just how you're able to do that across so many businesses. Even if your involvement in the business is only 30 minutes a week or an hour a week or whatever it is, you still are, responsible for the business and you still need to make sure that things are moving forward. How are you able to like work through other people so well to just deliver the results that you need to rather than having to do it all yourself?
That's a good question, DJ, and it's something that I definitely don't do 100% all the time. Like, it all comes down to having great people, and it's hard to find great people. It's when you scale a business and you have to hire, it's very hard to do. And so for me, is normally I'm at a point now where I don't get into a deal unless I already know who I can work with in it post acquisition, right? So I already know prior to the deal closing if I have a person I know that's proven their worth and what they're able to do, or someone who I trust who has someone else that in mind to do it. I don't just go and do a deal and then try to scramble to find somebody. And so it's always, I thankfully have a pretty good network and I continue to build it and try to find great people, people that I've worked with like yourself, people that I've done stuff with in the past, and I keep mental notes of people who were very competent, who got stuff done, who were easy to work with. And so when an opportunity comes by, I'll go through that Rolodex and be like, okay, this person was really good at X, Y, and Z. I need that in this new venture. I'm gonna bring them on to be that person. So it's all about kind of doing the pre-vetting first and having the right people. Because if I don't have the right people, then these things are not going to succeed at all. And they're just going to be a drain on me, a drain on any other partner I have, and eventually I'm just going to want to get out of it. Because again, my focus is time management, and if it's something that becomes a time suck, then I have to cut it because that's not what I want.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Sorry to cut you off, Ivan. Just one more follow up to that. I'm super curious, like, if you're obviously operating in a variety of industries and you may not know, or when you're first buying a company in a specific industry, maybe you're not a complete expert. Are you just looking at specific character traits of the manager in that business? How do you analyze whether, you're going to be able to work through this person in an industry that's completely new to you? Like, what are the traits in a manager you look for?
So if we're talking about a manager that is coming with the company, is that what
Exactly.
you're?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like if you're buying it and they're already running it.
good question. And so a lot of times I'm only interested in companies where the manager has been in that position for well over a year. So a lot of sellers, knowing that they're selling, will go out, find somebody to be a GM so that they can market it as I have a GM, right? But they've only been in that position for a month or two. I'm not interested in that because that's obviously there's not enough data to back up their performance. And so ideally I want a manager that's been there for multiple years, but at least a year. And by that point now you're able to, if they're running the day to day, they're kind of managing the P&L for the teams that they're managing. You can start to see the performance. Like now it's backed by data. So how did it do financially in the year that they were managing it versus the year prior that they weren't managing it? And so you at least can see surface level performance data. Then the next thing is doing a site visit. And so I always recommend people go there, they talk to the team, they talk to the manager, and you definitely need to be in a state of just walking in and really being able to not necessarily be there to ask a lot of questions, like kind of an interview, more of you're going in there to see what the vibe of the place is. Like we've all been in places where you walk in and you can tell that the employees are miserable, right? Like they treat the customers horrible. They look like they just want to jump off a roof, right? And so you're like, okay. Then you walk into some companies and the people are always smiling and they always seem to be happy. And it's a great experience for the customers as well as for the employees. And so going there and doing a site visit is super important. You want to walk in, you want to kind of get the vibe. A lot of times I'll go without, if I'm looking at something that I'm near, I would walk in as a customer and just see like, hey, can I talk to somebody? Hey, and I try to test out what the experience is. And they don't know who I am. And so then I get to see without any pretense how that environment is, and you kind of trying to get a feel. Then once you do more of a formal visit where they know that you're coming, I want to talk to all the key players, and I want to get them in a room, and I want to talk to them one on one, and I really want to just start asking about not like the job, but more about them. Like, hey, are you married? Do you have kids? What's your life goals? And try to get to understand them as a person because it like once you're able to start talking to them as just a person one-to-one instead of like potential boss to employee, they'll open up and they'll talk about things they're passionate about, some of their goals, maybe something that, they're dealing with that's been a big struggle. And then by the time you do all that, you leave there with a sense of, is this an environment that I think I can work with that has good momentum? Or is this just an energy drain, the whole place? Because it doesn't mean it's impossible to turn it around, but now you're going to be adding significant resources and time to turn that place around post acquisition. So I like to deal with the ones that already have a good work environment and have good momentum.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The conversation we had yesterday, we asked a similar or a question, and he had a really interesting approach. Similar to you, like how you just mentioned that you would go in and kind of act as a customer and go through the whole process and get the vibe of the place. He was saying like the first thing he's doing when going into a business is like, talking with the guys on the front lines who are loading up the trucks and really just getting deep into the roots of the business, to, basically feel out the vibe of the place, similar to what you said. So I find that very
Kind of
interesting. You can
like
go
an
ahead, Ivan.
undercover boss, if you will.
Hmm.
Yeah. What's and I hear it. I've listened to other interviews, and obviously I hear it in every single one of your responses. It's time is clearly of the most value to you, and this is the thing that you've landed on the most. Um, Even over because you've even recognized you're like, well, could I potentially be making more money and doing and buying bigger businesses and doing all that stuff? Yes, but I would never put it at the expense of the life that I have with my family now. And I think this is actually something that not a lot of guys get into with this, or at least I don't hear it because it's all about the tactics and stuff like that. But how did you arrive to that value of time being the constraint that you're going to put on your business and life? Like if you're going to put a constraint on it, some people it's like, I want to do the thing that make the most money. Some guys, it's I want to do the thing that I enjoy the most. How do you arrive? How did you arrive? Obviously, you kind of maybe got scared straight by the higher ups. Uh, in terms of seeing their life, how did you arrive? Was it a moment? What was it to have you arrive to time is the absolute most valuable thing that I have, and I'm not willing to compromise it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's probably a twofold answer. First off, time is finite, right? Like, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. We all have a time. Like, that's it. Once the clock is over, you're then going to go and meet your maker. And so for me, it's, especially when you have kids, you see how fast they grow, right? Like I remember yesterday that my daughter, who's my oldest, who's 5, I remember when she was born, right? Like it was yesterday. And that was 5 years later. And I know I'm gonna feel the same way when she's 18. Same way when she gets married and I'm walking her down the aisle. Time is gonna go by quick. And am I going to be 85, 90 years old on my deathbed and be like, man, I wish I did another acquisition? No, I don't think that's gonna be on my mind. I think what's gonna be on my mind is, man, I wish I had more time for my kids. Man, I wish I did this. Man, I wish I did that. It's all gonna be about the people in my life that mean the most, right? Because those are the things that are the deepest, um, and most valuable things to us. And so that's the first part of it, I would say. The second part would be, it definitely stems from my faith, right? So I'm a Christian, and I think that, I'm blessed with this one life to maximize that benefit that I could bring to other people, right? And um, and it's something that I'm being judged on. Like that's something that I'm expected to do, and I've been given grace. I've been given this opportunity to be where I am right now, be married to an amazing wife, have great kids, doing something that I love, right? So already there, I'm very blessed. And now, what am I going to do with it, right? Is it, hey, I'm just going to work 100 hours a week so I can be a billionaire one day? And it's like, um, I don't think that is where the most amount of value I can give it. I think the most amount of value I can give is in other areas, areas that only I can do, right? Areas where I can only be a father to my kids, no one else can, right? Or I'm the only one who can be a husband to my wife. I'm the only one who can be what I want to do in supporting those around me in my local community. Like that, God's given me these resources, and now I can use those resources to help other people. So I think it's realizing that time is finite, no matter what you do. Really, that's a finite thing that will end one day. What are those things that you're going to be um, looking back on that gave the most value to you. And then also in my worldview, knowing that my life has more than just its meaning of what time I have here on this earth. And then how do I maximize that? And so those are probably the two things that really motivate me when it comes to the most valuable resource being time.
Yeah, that's huge. It's so interesting how anytime, at least for me, anytime I've worked with an entrepreneur that has similar um, values that they express, but not values that they express because you express the value of time, you express the value of family, you express the value of doing great work. But there's like an underlying thread that if you pull, it always comes back to that faith piece. And I know you don't really talk about it a ton on your socials, so forgive me if I'm, I guess, overstepping, but where um where else does that show up in how you run your business? Because I know, it's not like you're Dave Ramsey out here and that's your whole brand, if you will, but where else does it play in how you interact with people, how you lead people? Is it a major influence? Is it something that's in the back of your head? Like, I'd love to learn more about how you live that out through your actions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It does. It does. I think that when it comes to running the businesses that I have and hiring people and treating them a certain way, yeah, like again, because of the worldview that I have, everyone is equal, right? Everyone is a child of God, and even whether I'm their boss or if they're my colleague or if they're above me, I'm going to give them equal respect in that. And so, people that work for me that are on my team, whether it's with Acquisition Ace or any one of the other companies that I have, I try to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to maximize the amount of respect and value I can bring to them. And so, as an employer, making sure that I'm not only paying them a good wage to where they're incentivized to do well, but also be able to give them the benefits that they need in order to take care of their families. And the things that I hold dear, right? If I think that families are super important, well, then I'd be a hypocrite if I wasn't supporting other people in supporting their families. And so it definitely affects that. And also when it comes down to a lot of times, in business, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. It can be a dirty business. Like business itself can be dirty, right? People undercut each other, people go behind each other's backs, they steal business, they trash talk other people, they try to get ahead doing stuff that's definitely a little sketchy. And so while they think they might get away with it in the short term, there's like a short-term benefit to doing it. Long term, that stuff gets around and eventually no one wants to work with them, right? And so for me, it's always I go above and beyond to make sure that everyone who I've ever worked with, people that even competitors to me, I will always do the most to be respectful and to make sure that I can always go back to them, talk with them, and have a friendly relationship. Like I'm not going to harbor any ill will towards them. I'm not going to hold grudges, just because I know that that just again is a energy drain, and it's also something that's just not it doesn't have long term value to do. So yeah, it does affect it, and it does affect the way that I go about treating people that I work with.
Yeah, it's everyone that I've had the most fun working with has a similar thread, whether it's not necessarily the specific worldview, but a worldview and that stuff. That's kind of funny. I is that something that's always been a part of your life? Is that something that you stumbled into on your own? Like, can you kind of, for those who haven't experienced that, don't necessarily know how to make sense of that. A lot of them are probably watching this to learn about the business, but this is the foundational to piece to everything.
For sure. And yes, so I grew up in a Christian household. My father was, childhood hero of mine and still is. And he was someone who lived out his faith in everything he did. And so I saw, that, as a kid especially, you learn by example. And so I saw the way my dad was. I saw the way that he was always a man of his word. He was always, if he said he was going to do something, he was going to do it, and he was going to do it well. And everyone respected my father, regardless if they agreed with him or not. Like they respected him because they knew that he meant what he said. and that he was going to stand by it. And so I I grew up in that type of family, but really my faith became like personal and deep felt probably in my early 20s is when I really started to not just be but the faith of my family, but my own faith, right? And and that's because you start to live life. You start to get challenged. You start to go, start to see people that you love die. You start to see the ugliness of this world. And for me, my worldview was solidified in that having that lens to look at those things and not feel despair, right? Not feel like, okay, well, if everyone is deep down just selfish or looking to get one up on each other, then that's what I'm going to do as well. And that wasn't the way I thought because I saw again from the example of my father, but also some other really good men in my life that were much ahead of me in areas of life with families and with business, and I saw that by living out their faith in everything, those things were also blessed tremendously. And so, yeah, it's been a part of me since I would say I've grown up in it, but it really became my personal belief very strongly, probably in my early 20s. So now, I'm 35 years old. So it's been about, I would say about, 12, 15 years at this point.
That's huge. That's powerful because I don't hear a lot of guys who are openly speak about it, and I know how many people can help. It's also so interesting. I don't. Maybe I'm just kind of riffraffing here, but it's so interesting how people land on different things from the same worldview. Like some guys will say that. Uh, I was talking to one last week actually. He was talking the same worldview, but that's why he wants to be the billionaire and do another thing. For you, it's the main family piece. I don't know. It's just something that just came to mind as you're breaking that down.
And guess what? Like you can, just because I'm a Christian and I have my worldview and I feel convicted that the Lord is leading me down this path, doesn't mean that he can lead someone down a completely different path, right? Like, I'm not saying like, um, someone who wants to be a billionaire and utilize that amount of wealth to do amazing things. That's awesome. And if that's God's plan for them, amazing. I just know for me, with the way that I feel conviction in what should be most on my center point, like my North Star, it's not go out and make the most money. Like I'm obviously doing well and my family is taken care of, but I'm optimizing for making sure I'm doing the things that I feel most conviction about. And so, yeah, but everyone can have a different North Star.
It's so clear. It's awesome how clear you are. I just wanted to say that because a lot of guys are just yeah. Go DJ.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a follow-up question to that. It's like, how do you think about like prioritization? Like you have these values, you have all the businesses, you are very clear on where you want to allocate your time, and obviously time is limited for you, and you've probably got a million and one things you could be doing in any given moment. How are you prioritizing? Like, what are the highest leverage things in business you can achieve on a daily basis in that finite amount of time? And then, yeah, like, what does your day actually look like? I'd love to, hear you break it down. Like, how are you waking up and still, because you're wildly successful. It may seem like from the interview that, you're thinking small or anything because you prioritize family over business, but you're obviously very successful in business. You own a lot of companies and you do a lot of revenue. So how are you able to manage that and be so effective in such a shortened window of time versus someone else who's willing to work 16 hours a day?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was actually just talking about this with my wife yesterday or the day before, and I so before we had kids, I thought I was pretty hardworking and focused and everything else, and by any objective standard, maybe I was. But it's amazing when you have kids, you are forced to become way more productive in a much shorter period of time, right? So like right now, I typically work to show you what my schedule looks like. I wake up, typically, anywhere between 5:30 and 7, depending on the day. Right now we have a 2-month-old, so he's waking up around 3 or 4 a.m. So for feeding. But typically that's when I'm getting up. I get up, the whole morning, I'm just focused around making breakfast for the kids, getting them ready for school, getting lunches all together, get them out the door, drop off my daughter at 8 p.m., My son gets dropped off at 8:45, and so by the time I get back to the office, it's like 9:15. It's probably when the first time I'm opening up an email, seeing what's going on. And then from then, I try to end my day at 3 p.m. sharp. Because let's just call it 5 hours if we're taking a break for lunch of work per day. So on a weekly basis, that's 20 hours a week, right? Or 25 hours a week. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Now, most guys in my space are working 50, 60 hours a week. Now, again, they might be single, they might be married, but no kids. They might even have kids. And they're just working at night, right? Like the kids go down, they're doing another couple hours. And there's not times where I don't do that. There's definitely times where a deal is on the line or something's about to be launched and I'm putting some extra hours in, for sure. But the way I prioritize things is and I used to be really bad at this. I used to get swayed and distracted on any good idea. Like, oh, that sounds good. Let's do it. Oh, that sounds good. Let's do it. And next thing I know, I have 15 things and none of them are working out because I'm spread way too thin. And so now is something I like to say. My father-in-law actually says this all the time. He's like, and shares the same faith I do. And he goes, not every good thing is a God thing. And the whole point of the saying that is just because something sounds good or even maybe good, it might even be morally good to do, doesn't necessarily mean you should do it, right? So there has to be there has to be another level to the filter before you just jump into something. And so for me now, that filtration has multiple levels. Is it in line with my values and faith? Yes. Okay. Now it goes to the second level. Is it in line with my values around time with my family? It is. Great. Third level. Is it something where I think that by putting the amount of hours into it, I'm going to have an outsized return that's better than the current things that I'm doing? If the answer is yes, okay, now it goes to the fourth level. And that's where it's basically prayer and talking about it with my wife and other people that I see as mentors. And if the answer is yes, okay, now let's do it. Right. So there's kind of a filtration to that. So everything I do on a daily basis is kind of put through that filter. If it's not making it through that filter, it's not going to come on my calendar most likely. And so that's kind of how I'm trying to prioritize things that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. A guy who I listen to a lot about productivity is my buddy. His name's Rian Doris, and he's like he's a big personal brand around just productivity, prioritization, accessing flow states, and being just the most productive you possibly can. And like a big thing I learned from him was it's never the amount of hours you work, it's what you produce in those hours. So like in certain times, like he would even tell me sometimes to condense the hours that I work so that I can recover better. I can also truly prioritize, because if you leave yourself all day to achieve things, you're not gonna sit there and be like, okay, what are the 3 things I can do today to actually deliver the outsized returns that you're talking about? So I think I love hearing people's perspective on that. And I think you have an incredible ability to choose those 3 things. If you're like, hey, I got 5 hours today, there's only a few things I can get done. What are the 3 things that are going to deliver those outsized returns you were talking about? I love your perspective on how do you pick. So if it's a new idea, if it's something new, maybe it's a new business, a new marketing strategy, a new whatever, how do you filter how do you decide whether you think that will actually deliver those outsized returns? And then allow yourself, like, I know you have those other filters, but how are you picking opportunities and be like, okay, that's a winner. That's worth, adding an extra hour into my current schedule to double down on that.
Yeah, great question. So the other filters are pretty self-explanatory, but in that filter where you're looking at ROI, it's something where does this opportunity align with a strong suit that I already have, right? Because now I'm at a point where I have a brand that's growing, and there's certain things that are on brand and there's certain things that are off brand, right? Now, it doesn't mean that everything I'm involved in is on brand. There's definitely things I've invested in that's not on the acquisition brand. But if something comes along and it's an opportunity and it passes through the first few filters and it gets to the ROI filter, and I know that because I already have a presence and I already have a network and I already have levers I can pull that are really a product of where I am now, not a product of I can put in 100 hours worth of work to make it work. So it's basically I know these 2 levers that I can pull fairly easily, and those 2 levers should produce a 2, 3, 4x on this thing. And so that's an ROI that I like because now I only have to spend a few hours this month on this project, and that project should give me an outsized return. If it's something where I know, like let's say it's something completely new, I don't have a network, I don't have any kind of network effect or unfair advantage in, and I know it's going to be kind of a start from scratch type thing, then I'm most likely going to say no or refer to somebody who I think would be a better fit because I know that by doing that, I'm going to start taking away from the other priorities that I already have. Right. So for me, it's does it align with already my focus and my path where I know I have momentum and I can easily push that forward and give it a good tailwind? Or is it something where I'm going to have to like just from the start, I'm just, there's headwinds. I'm going to have to like force it to happen. And that's kind of where I make that decision.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'd love to dig into because it sounds like the way you're filtering these opportunities is just like, do you have a unique competitive advantage that's tied to this thing? And then can you just add momentum with a little bit of, a snap of your fingers due to the fact that you already have a unique advantage? I'm sure Ivan's really curious about this as well, but it seems like your personal brand is kind of the center of all these opportunities and it allows you to pull these quick levers. So I know you talk a lot about business acquisitions, but you're also a master personal brand. Like you've built a really big brand on multiple channels on the internet. So talk to me about how is that like the centerpiece of where you're like, you have all these opportunities, a lot of, you have built your network through this. How do you view the brand? Is that kind of like the centerpiece?
Yeah, for sure. The brand is definitely the centerpiece now, I would say. Um, yeah, before the brand was big, because obviously that's all really just happened in the last couple of years, me starting to build a brand. Before that, it was about the network, right? And the thing that a brand does, it just 10x's your network, right? So now if I need to hire somebody or if I'm looking for a certain deal or I want to gauge interest on a certain topic, I just got to ask people. I make a post, right? And I get a couple thousand people replying. And it's a very easy way to test new ideas or new strategies without having to put a ton of work in. When you don't have that network effect, right, you have to work your own network and it takes longer, it takes more research, it takes a lot of face-to-face meetings to get the same level of kind of awareness that I have where I could just do a quick post, right? So that's what I used to do before having the brand. I was always on LinkedIn, connecting with people. I had probably 2 or 3 calls a week that I would just take to network with people in areas that I thought were interesting, people that were 5, 10 years ahead of me in where I wanted to be. And I would send out 10 like invitation requests and maybe 2 of them jump on a call with me. But those 2 people now are people that are light years ahead of where I was. I got to pick their brain, ask them questions. I would try to do something for them. And because a lot of times they would just give it to me for free. And I did that consistently and I built up networks, built up potential investors, built up ways to do things outside of having that personal brand. But yes, the personal brand now, because it's the effort, the time, the money, everything put into it is starting to yield a good result. Now that's become kind of the centerpiece and kind of how I use to shift things around. But I'm still actively involved in a couple things um, that have nothing to do with my brand. But I think that moving forward, when I look at things to add to my plate, the brand is a great way to leverage that. So if it falls within the brand, that kind of helps me pass through that filter on that.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on that leverage. And if you're sprinting full out for 20 hours a week, and that's the time you've allowed yourself and you've blocked off, what else are the highest leverage things? And because if I'm watching this, and a lot of these older guys, they don't bother with social media. It's a waste of time, especially in your space. They're like a waste of time. I'd rather be on the ground meeting a business owner, doing this, being here, being there. Um, I've seen the power of personal brand, but can you kind of start touching into how it allows you to be, what it allows you to do, how it allows you to sprint 20 hours a week, but still see the outsized returns that you're seeing? Because I mean, you are running multiple successful businesses all at the same time.
Yeah, good question. So I would tell those, and I've actually I talk to these guys all the time that are in my space, private equity guys, guys that are self-funded searchers, and I tell them all the time like the power of this, and obviously they would respond back. Obviously, being on the ground or picking up a phone and calling people, yes, all those things are very important to go out there and to get deals. But I was like, an example I'll give them is I have a newsletter. And it's I think over 75,000 um, people on it now. And every week I have a link at the bottom that says, hey, if you want to sell your business, fill out this quick survey. And I get people want like direct off market sending me messages every week to sell them. I'm not doing any work at that point. Right. And so they're doing that because they see the brand, they opt into my newsletter, and now they're sending me these businesses that about 20% of them are actually the size of businesses that I'm interested or people that are within my group are interested. And so that's something that those same guys in the private equity houses, everything else, spend tens of thousands of dollars a month in marketing to try to reach those people directly. And I'm just getting it as a passive uh, response, right? So brand is very valuable. In their minds, they see it as kind of a one-trick pony of, "Hey, look at me," and getting attention from me. And that's not the case. The power of a brand is that you're able to get the ideas that you're espousing to a way more people than I would in any other circumstance. And you're going to resonate with more people are going to reach back out to you with opportunities. And so I think that sometimes that's lost, where they think of it as like a social media influencer, and that's the only value. And it's like, no, that's the real value is you're getting people to look at what you're doing and get them interested in it and seeing it as a viable way in which they can transact in my space. And so that's what brings them to talk to me.
That's huge. That like when you talk about because that's the word that they use, influencer. That's the word that that's the word that they use. So it's so what other levers are you pulling that you know other that you see that others are not? It's the personal brand piece, but also I mean, I'm sure being in social and being active there has probably opened your eyes to a lot more of the AI things that others are probably behind. What other levers are you pulling that allows you to just cruise? You're cruising past these guys. You're sprinting, but to them it looks like you're cruising, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess obviously the brand is a big one. I think the other thing is like you just mentioned, there's because I'm on social media and I see other trends, I'm able to get exposed to people that are also very good at what they do, and are able to rise above, you know, the chaos of social media to be a voice in whatever industry they're in. And so you get exposed to people who are really good at what they do in certain industries. And so I think part of the benefit of that is if I want to do something, or if I want to, for instance, AI, if I want to implement AI more deeply into my portfolio companies, I can easily reach out to some of the best names in the space who are doing that and have a conversation one on one and do that within a day and get the best information possible. So it all comes down to speed, right? I can easily within a day reach out to people who are movers and shakers in their respective industries, and I can get them, or a guy who, if I want to do a cold funnel for cold funnel traffic, I want to do warm funnel traffic, if I want to do a webinar, if I want to do anything that's going to drive more leads, I want to get Google SEO expert who's the best at what he does. I can easily do that within a very short time period. And because the brand has allowed me now to operate at a way faster speed than someone who doesn't have it, because I can get someone to pick up a phone and talk to me. Whereas before everyone else, they have to go through a
To
funnel
DM for
and
you.
everything
Yeah.
else. Correct. Correct. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is speed.
Yeah, that's huge.
I've got a Ivan, I've got a fascinating thing to me is like the way that I think the background that you come from, obviously you worked at like JP Morgan, you saw these investors rather than like, there's, I think there's a whole side of business owners who came from the bootstrapped side of things where it's like you're bootstrapping, you're starting from zero, no outside funding, you're not buying a business and you're starting with no revenue and you're just going out and in that, way of thinking and that way of operating it's you have to wear all the hats in the beginning, but I think you came from the other side. You're obviously still an operator, but the way you think about it is it sounds like you're thinking through people. You're like, how can I find the best person to do this rather than how can I learn this skill? Whereas I think a lot of bootstrapped entrepreneurs think they have to do everything themselves and think they have to wear all the hats. And if they need to learn AI, they have to do it themselves. Or if they need to learn cold traffic or warm traffic or whatever, how has that, impacted your ability to scale is just viewing it through like, okay, what needs to happen in the business? And then how can I go find that person rather than how can I go learn that all on my own and add an extra 20 hours a week to my plate to learn a new skill?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It all comes down to the ability to do things at a much faster rate. And for me, I know that my time is worth a certain amount, right? And I know that if I want to dive into something and become the expert myself and implement it, it's going to take a certain amount of time to do that. And now that certain amount of time has a dollar amount attached to it because I could be in that time instead of doing the research and practicing this and troubleshooting this, I could be going out there and doing X, Y, and Z that generate revenue, right? And so I know that my time equals X amount of dollars, and I know that this project is going to take Y amount of hours. And so then I look at that and I do the math and I'm like, wow, okay, this thing that I'm going to dedicate, like that's going to take me probably a week or two to figure out, and maybe that equals 10 hours. I could hire 10 teams to do this in the amount of time that they would do it instantly, much better than me. I'm not going to have to troubleshoot it. I don't even have to think about it. And it's going to be done out a fraction of the price that I'd be paying with my time. And so I think most people who bootstrap stuff, they always think that doing something cheaper and doing it themselves is always the best option because you're going to save your cash. When really when I started to grow is when I started to like you'd have to spend money to make money. And it's very true in a lot of areas of life. And for me, I really took it to the next level when I decided, hey, this is something I want to build. I'm going to work with the best people to build it. The best people cost money. I'm going to invest that money. And now the return on the back end of it is that I'm at a place now with my brand and with my businesses that I never even would have got close to if I had tried to just, you know, just grudge or bootstrap my way by myself where I was like, I'm not getting help from anybody, no investors, no nobody. And I would be at a fraction of where I am today.
That's fascinating. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you incentivize people like your managers, your, maybe service providers, just people that you work with. You work with so many people and obviously you're looking for the best people, but I think a lot of it comes down to incentives and how you're aligning those incentives to get the most out of that person. How do you think about that? Because we've had a lot of conversations and I ask this question very often. And there's certain people who are like, hey, if your management team doesn't have equity, like, what are you doing? And then there's other people who are all about keeping the equity and incentivizing them in different ways. How do you actually incentivize people and get the absolute most out of them? Yeah, I'm just very curious on your philosophy there.
Yep. And there's definitely it's always usually on a deal by deal basis. It's also on the person basis. Some things motivate people. Some things motivate one person and do not motivate another. Right. So I can say to one person, "Hey, I'll give you 2% equity in this business." They're like, okay, okay, I'll give you 60 days PTO. Okay, sounds good. Right. Like it's just a different motivation. Some people are bonus motivated. Some people are more experience motivated. Right. And so for instance, like there's one of the accounting firms I'm a partner in. Accounting season just ended, and they work really hard during the season. And at the end of it, they basically could get a bonus. And for this level position, it was like basically like a $2,500, $3,000 bonus that month for their work, or they can go on an all expense cruise with the team. And everyone chooses to go on the cruise with the team, right? And it's actually the cruise ticket per person is less than the bonus, right? Obviously, like, so they're motivated by going on a cruise to the Caribbean and having fun for a few days instead of taking the $2,500, $3,000 and putting it towards an investment or growing their cash. So you got to find out what is going to move the needle with people. Certain people are more long-term minded. Certain people are more near-term. And so for me, it's getting to know your people. You get to know them, know what makes them tick, know what's going to make them motivated, and that's what you're going to put out there. The second thing is don't be greedy, right? Like the more I give, and this is very much a biblical concept as well. The more that I give out, the more that I receive. And I'm not giving to receive more. It's just the law of the universe where the more the more that I give to others and donate to others and bless others and pay others, the more somehow it comes back to me, right? And so it's something that seems counterintuitive, but the people who hold tightest to their wallet and never want to do anything that's going to overcompensate someone or bless somebody or invest, their wallet's never gonna grow. It's just a thing that I've seen time and time again on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it's interesting because I've actually seen you in these situations where, we've done a few projects together. And I remember there was a certain project we worked on where you had two very different teams that were both being very well compensated in different areas. So you had like an organic team and then you had us helping with another part of it. And, you did a big launch and you ended up a lot of it was on performance. So you're paying on performance. So you're paying for the result. But I've seen it where I've worked with people that are paying you on performance, but then are not happy to pay you a lot on performance, although they're making more money. And I've seen it be the opposite with you, where you're very, very happy to get those outsized returns and then also pay the outsized return to the people who helped you get that. And I think it's like, it's fascinating. It's a really good lesson because it's like you could have, in this specific situation that I'm referencing, it's not important, but you could have just worked with one team or had it in-house or did it at a slightly lower level, but maybe kept a little bit more of the pie, but just not got the end result. And I just find it so interesting. It does seem counterintuitive, but at the same time, it's like if you can get an even better result by, paying people better, it just seems obvious that you would do it because, then everyone's, motivated and happy and working towards, getting the ultimate best result rather than just like, hey, penny pinching and worrying about keeping it all for yourself. I find it fascinating.
Absolutely, man. That's key. I want people to be excited to work with me because I know that the result is going to be meaningful. If it's not, I've increased people's commissions because I knew that what they even asked for wasn't going to move it for them. Like they asked for 5%, and I'm like, if I was in your shoes, that wouldn't get me excited. How about 10? Right? Like okay, I'll do 10. But like I want you to be motivated. Like I want it to be when you're at the end of the month, you're gonna get a nice check that's like, wow, okay, let's do that again, and you're gonna be motivated to do it again. Um, so yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's like you're getting so much more for that extra little boost that you're like, hey, I would actually rather pay you a little bit more, but then you're probably getting 10x effort on that, little thing that you're giving. So it's very, very interesting. Go ahead, Ivan. I know you had something, but just find
No,
that
yeah,
fascinating.
it definitely is because um, it's for and that probably lends itself to how you're able to integrate businesses so well into the portfolio is the moment that you, I guess, boots are on the ground, acquisitions done, and you take over, you're able to move people to take initiative and take ownership of a business that I guess you now own. And when it comes to the acquisitions, if I am listening, if I am wanting to get into buying smaller businesses, or if I'm buying bigger businesses and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing, can you give us a quick crash course, I guess, on how to maneuver through not only just finding a deal, but integrating the deal? Because that's something that um, w- we're talking to these partners and they're like, yeah, finding the deal is one thing, but then integrating into the portfolio to where it works for you and that you're actually seeing the upside returns of it, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I'll do it because I know we only got a couple minutes left here. But so if I were to do a crash course, it would be if you're going out there to try to find a business, do on market and off market research, and talk to off market and on market sellers. Totally different animals. Off market, you can get very creative. You're going to get a better deal overall, but you're going to put a lot more work in. On market, less of a better deal, but a lot less work in, right? And when it gets to funding, there's a billion ways to do it. Obviously, a lot of people like to do SBA loans, but there's ways to do 100% seller financing. There's ways to do a mixture of seller financing, SBA loans, and investor money. And then there's other ways in which you can do cash, right? Like there's a million different ways you can get the deal done. But now, post acquisition, you're definitely going to do a couple things. One, if you bought it correctly, it had a team that's already running the day to day. So day one, no changes to be made. The first 90 days, you are not doing any major changes. You're not firing people. You're not changing any kind of marketing efforts. You're just sitting there and learning. You're learning about what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what those results are. You're measuring results. After the first 90 days, you're going to do another 90 days. In that 90 days now, you're going to start to write some prescriptions. You're not going to implement them. You're just going to write them. You're going to say, okay, this area we're not good in. So we're going to start trying this. This area we're kind of mediocre in. We're going to try this tweak. And then after the first 180 days, which is 6 months, now is at a time where you can start to think about making changes. And you can do the small changes first. You're going to see the results. You're going to see the buy-in from your team. Once the ground is back to being stable, go and make another change. And it's a gradual process. A lot of people, the biggest mistake is they get in there thinking that they're just going to tear everything apart and make it amazing day one. And if you do that, you're going to lose the trust of the team that's there, and they're going to abandon you. And so best thing to do post-acquisition is listen and learn, slowly work your way into actually making some changes in the business.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating because it's like you're you're prioritizing the buy-in of the team over all else, because at the end of the day, the people are the business. So if you betray that trust by coming in and making all these changes, yeah, that's fascinating. I've never heard someone articulate it that way, but that was
Yeah,
killer.
and on that's it's crazy how, and I know you got a blast, and it's crazy how you summarized everything into one short clip. And obviously, if they want to learn the nitty gritty details of everything, they could find your YouTube channel. But I'd love for you to give them the floor. I'd love to give you the floor and explain where it is people can find you, where it is people can learn more about what you're doing with Acquisition Ace. Um, how can people find you? Where can people learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking on socials, Instagram or X, you're going to find me at Ben Kelly one spelled out ONE. You can look on YouTube, Acquisition Ace. And obviously LinkedIn, you're going to find me under my name. And yeah, and my main group is Acquisition Ace. And so you can look that acquisitionace.io and you can see that website there, or go to benkelly.co and I will kind of talk about everything I'm doing. But other than that, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Sweet. Well, Ben, I appreciate you being gracious with the time and enlightening us on a lot of things. I know DJ learned a lot. I learned a lot as well. So I appreciate you taking the time, and maybe we have you on one day again. We'll see.
Absolutely, guys. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you both having me on.